Okay. Hello, everyone. I think we're live on Facebook now. So let's take a couple of minutes and then we can start, just so everyone will join. Okay, I think we can start. So hello everyone again. My name is Christophe Zoghbi. First of all, I would like to thank IEEE Region 8, the Entrepreneurship Initiative, for having me today with them to share my story. As the talk, in today's talk, I will be telling you my story, the different phases and challenges that I went through, and how I ended up founding my current company, ZAKA. Throughout the story, I will summarize the lessons that I learned in hopes that these would be beneficial for you and that you can inspire you or you can apply them in your own journey. And after the talk, we can have some questions that I will be answering on Facebook Live. So the story begins basically in 2012. So I studied software engineering at university. And so I'm coming from a technical background. I graduated in 2012. And at that time, I was really interested in the Android system. It was a newly launched system, and there was a lot of hype around mobile applications and Android development in general. And so I started working a bit on my skills. I started developing some mobile applications towards my final years at university. And after I graduated, I started working for a local company, developing obviously mobile applications for Android. This was my first job, and it was a very exciting job for me. I was working on something that I really liked. I was working with a group of friends that were with me from the university, so the environment was also nice, and I was also learning and growing my skills in this field. So it was a very good time. But after a couple of years, I stopped learning. I stopped, I was working on the same thing every day, and eventually I kind of learned everything that I had to learn, and things were becoming a bit boring. So I wasn't really, applying or learning new things. And so I decided that it's not really a good environment for me to be in. And I wanted to quit and, try my luck at working on some of my ideas. But at the time, it was a bit scary for me to do this big jump. And so I was a bit hesitant. And then I decided to maybe find another job while I keep working on my skills. And then maybe after a year or two, I can, start my own startup again. So that's exactly what I did. I found a new job at another company. The company also did mobile applications, but I was in charge of a small team of developers. So this allowed me to work a bit on my management skills, on my team leadership skills. And it bought me a bit of time. But unfortunately, having been bit by the entrepreneurial bug, that didn't last long. And so I found myself after a year at this new company, also feeling the need to just quit and work on my ideas. And so I finally decided to quit my job. And along with a couple of friends from a previous company, we all decided to, take this decision together and jump on working on a new startup for us. So I'm going to pause a bit now, and I'm going to give you some of the lessons or principles that I've learned in my early career. And I think these apply to anyone who's just either fresh graduates or they're just starting their career. So the first point is follow your passion. I think it's very important. I know this is trivial and kind of obvious, but you really have to be working on something that you enjoy. you should be passionate about the field that you're working in or that you're studying. Sometimes it can be difficult with all the pressures, and sometimes you might choose a certain career based on the status or how much money you'll be making. But I think it's very important to focus on something that you really enjoy doing, something that you're passionate about, because this will open up doors and will let you, do the other things that we will talk about later. Um, the second point is always strive to learn. So education does not end after you graduate from university. Um, Whichever field that you're working in, there will always be new advancement. There will always be new ways, new ideas, new things happening in this field, and you always have to stay up to date. You always have to keep learning and educating yourself and following the trends that are coming. Otherwise, you'll be stuck behind, and everything else will just pass by you. So if you go back to my example, after working in Android development for a couple of years, I almost knew that everything that I had to know, and then it became a bit stagnating. I wasn't really working on my skills, and so as soon as I felt that my job wasn't really pushing me forward, I decided to change and to do something else. And I think it's always important to keep pushing ourselves and to keep going towards the path that teaches us. And this point brings us to point number 3, which is focus on growing your skills instead of your salary. This is it's a bit weird, but I mean, again, I believe that if you're under 30, you should not focus on just, growing your salary. Instead, you should focus on growing your skills, on learning new things. And this can be seen basically, let's say when you have a decision to make between 2 jobs, and this will come in your career for sure. You will end up kind of choosing between 2 positions. One of them might be like it has more learning or room for you to learn, and the other might be better salary. And if you can afford it, if you can, I mean, obviously sometimes there are some certain circumstances that you have to take into consideration, but most of the time, if you can support your decision and go with the lower salary, it's always important to focus on skill development and on the learning instead of on just money wise. And so it's always important. So for example, in my story, when I switched job to another company, it was not for a better salary. It was actually a bit less than the previous company, but it allowed me to learn new things and new skills that I needed in order for me to do more things later. So back to the story. We all had quit, like I said, and we all wanted to work on our ideas. And so we didn't really have a clear plan for what we wanted to build, or neither how to sell it, or basically any of the things that you will find in business plans. We just were very talented individuals. We had ambitions. We had great ideas. We really enjoyed programming, and we were very good at what we did. And so we decided to experiment on various ideas and to basically learn in the process. And if you've ever been in a startup and you know how basically, I'm sorry, just a second. Okay. So if you've ever been in a startup, you know that with the low resources that you have, you end up doing many things at the same time. And since there's technically no one there to teach you, you have to figure it out for yourself. And that's the beautiful part about startups. It's because it's a great environment for you to learn and to push yourselves to the limit and to always to really grow. And so this can happen basically on like technical things like learning a new programming language or a new framework to implement some feature you wanted, or it can be also working on your personal skills, maybe design skills to create some icon on Photoshop, or even how to talk to clients, how to land sales, how to do basically everything. So this period in my life was very beneficial for me and has allowed me to learn a lot. One of the products that you're working on, that you were building, was a tool that automates basic graphic design tasks. So this tool would basically take your data, such as images and text, and it would generate layouts that are beautiful. and that you think that it thinks that you will find them beautiful. And basically, it was supposed to be learning your behavior over time and generating layouts that you will definitely like. And so I particularly like this project because it was my entry point into the world of artificial intelligence. Because for this product to work, we had to use machine learning and AI, because basically, how else would we be teaching a computer or a program to differentiate between beautiful layouts and ugly layouts, and to learn users' behavior and their preferences in the design. And so we realized that for us to make this idea a reality and to make it work, we had to use artificial intelligence and some form of machine learning to make it happen. But at the time, I didn't know anything about AI. And so the only decision I had was, let's take this challenge, let's learn AI and let's see what we can do. And so I only had the internet and a lot of time on my hands. But as you can probably guess, there's a lot of information on the internet. And so I spend a lot of time reading a lot of articles, blog posts, tutorials, some books, anything that I could get my hands on to try to understand basically the topic of the field of artificial intelligence and how I can apply it on my project. So after I've read enough and I thought I understood what I read, I jumped back onto the project and I tried to apply whatever I read into the project that I was working on. And it was this iteration of reading and applying and repeating this process many times that really allowed me to get a strong grasp and understand the concept of artificial intelligence. And it was very clear to me that this is it's a topic that I really enjoyed working on. I was fascinated by dealing with data, building models, training models, trying to add some smart capabilities to software. So I immediately knew that this is the field that I want to be working in, and I really wanted to push my skills further in this field. So other than this project, I also worked on a couple of other projects during my startup that involved different topics of AI, some including computer vision and like face detection and classification. However, after almost 3 years of 3 bittersweet years of really hard work, late nights, and so many ups and downs, I suddenly realized that this is not the startup wasn't really going well. It wasn't going into the direction that I wanted it to go. And I felt that I needed to take a different direction for my life. I needed to cut my losses, to quit, and to just move on with my life. And it wasn't really an easy decision to make at all, because it would not only mean that I would be throwing away 3 years worth of hard work, but also, and more importantly, it meant that I would be losing the only real friends that I had. But nevertheless, the same need to grow kept pushing me forward and pushing me to accomplish more. And so I finally decided to quit the startup and try to do something else. So this brings us to the principles or the lessons that I learned in the startup phase. First of all, as I said earlier, we never really had a clear plan of what we wanted to build. And looking back at this now, I think this is definitely not a good idea to have. So it's always good to have a clear plan, even though you might not end up sticking with the plan. Lots of things change and life happens. So almost always you'll have to make amendments and adjust your plan. But at least if you have a clear plan, you kind of know where you're going and you can evaluate yourself at different steps. And so make sure that you have a clear plan, and then it will make your life much easier. Second point is about accepting new challenges, or basically facing your challenges. So in a startup, you'll be facing a lot of challenges. Some of them are technical challenges, like how to solve a certain, I don't know, piece of code, or how to implement a certain product, or whatever it is, technical challenge. And you will face mental challenges and personal challenges. Maybe I don't know, how to pitch your startup, how to give a public talk, or whatever challenge it is. And I think it's always good to push yourself, because if you really want to grow, you have to step outside of your comfort zone. And so, for example, in my case, when I realized that we needed to have AI to make the product work, instead of going back to the product and changing the product or making it something maybe easier for me to work on, I decided to take on this challenge, even though I had no idea if I could do it. I never really, I didn't have a mentor or someone to teach me to how to apply it. I just had my ambition, my motivation to learn it, and basically the information on the internet. And this has also helped me a lot in different stages of my life. So you should always make sure to face your challenges instead of avoiding them. The third point, know when to stop, or basically cut your losses. So when you've invested in a certain project or a startup, and you've put so much energy in it and so many hours, and you've put a lot in it, you'll get emotionally attached to it, and it's going to be a bit difficult for you to just give up on it, right? And so it's very important to always make sure you're looking at your project or whatever it is in an objective manner, and always um, make sure you're evaluating correctly, and like remove your feelings or your emotions out of it, and look at what exactly you're doing. And when you think that this is not going well, then it's time to stop. It's time to cut your losses and to move on to the next plan or the next project. Otherwise, you'd be just draining yourself and going deeper into this sinkhole. So it's always better to keep a clear idea of when you need to stop, of when things aren't going well, and then just cut your losses. And when you do that, it's basically you've admitted that you failed, and it's definitely not an easy thing to do, especially in front of your parents and your friends and your surroundings. If you've been putting your efforts for the last 3 years into something, and then suddenly you just it stopped, and you've kind of admitted that it's failed, it's definitely not easy, and it can take a toll on you. It can really make you, like, bring you down. So it's very important to know how to deal with the failure. um, it's For me, I think that if, let's say, a project failed, it doesn't mean that you're a failure. It's just one project or one startup or one idea that failed. So you should not be defined by the failure of your startup or your project. You should keep your energy up. You should always stay motivated, perseverant, and always push for the next thing, because it's not about how many times you failed. It's basically how, if you can get back up and keep pushing. um, so yeah, these are basically the points that I've learned from my startup. Obviously, there's so many more that I can talk about, but I think these summarize things very well. So to get back to the story, so after I quit the startup, I wasn't really eager to jump back into the corporate life and to get a job anytime soon. So as you can imagine, being in a startup gives you a certain freedom that you can really get used to it. And it's very hard to give up this freedom. So basically, it's not only freedom of when to work or how many hours to work on. It's also what to work on and who to work with, and you're in control of everything. And so it was a bit difficult for me to I was really excited to get back and find a job. So I thought that I'm gonna try to make it work on my own. I'm gonna try to see if I can get some projects, if I can develop my skills further. And if after a couple of months, let's say, things didn't work out, then I will go and get a job. So obviously, I was still in love with AI very much, and I really wanted to grow further in this field. I wanted to try and make it in this big field. And so I thought that I need to take more projects. I mean, obviously, I wasn't really an expert about AI back then, but I knew that I can solve any problem that I put my mind into. I just needed to find interesting problems and people willing to pay me to do it. And so, as you can imagine, back then, there weren't a lot of companies in Lebanon that were working on such projects. So it was a bit difficult for me to find AI projects here in this country, and therefore I looked for outside of Lebanon, and I started outsourcing projects, while at the same time I was taking a lot of different projects here, not AI related, but just to try to make an income. And whenever I got a chance to work on an AI project that would enable me to get more experience and build my portfolio, I would jump on it and I would work on it. So one time, I was traveling to Amsterdam with some friends, and given that, again, I'm very interested in AI, I was looking for some AI meetups that are happening during this time. I thought maybe I can connect with other people, share experiences, discuss some ideas. It would be interesting. So when I was searching for some meetups, I discovered that there's an Amsterdam AI community, and they had a meetup around the time that I was there. And then from the AI community, I discovered that they're actually part of a bigger global community of AI hubs called City AI. And so I went on the website of City AI, and I discovered that it's this global community of different AI hubs all over the world, and they share resources and discussions, and they have this big community. And so I was immediately really interested in this, and I thought that it's a great way for me to push the AI ecosystem in my country, and I needed this to happen. I think this would be a great way for us to really advance the field and try to get more people working in this space in Lebanon. So I contacted City AI, and we set up everything. And after I got back from Amsterdam, I decided to establish the Beirut AI community. I spoke to a couple of friends that I knew who were interested in AI, and we started working on the first event. So I'm really, I mean, I have to tell you something. I'm a community person. I've been a member of the Scouts for more than 10 years. I've been also involved in other meetups in Lebanon. And so I was really excited to build this AI community. And I really saw a huge need for Lebanon to have a community like that, where, it excites people to learn AI and to share knowledge and to push each other forward. So after we set up the first event and we started doing more events, and with time, this community grew, and we started doing different types of events. Some of them were technical workshops, others were just high-level presentations. So I started really noticing a big need in Lebanon for people to get into the field. I realized that there were a lot of people who were interested in AI, but who knew nothing about it, and who really appreciated the events that we were doing. So almost 3 years later, and more than 45 events later, I'm very proud to say that we have built the biggest applied AI community in Lebanon. And I say we because I didn't do it alone. I have a great team of really amazing people who are motivated and who believe in the same mission that I do. And I would have never be able to accomplish or to build this big community if I didn't have this amazing team of people. I could talk about Beirut AI literally for hours and tell you all about the different things we do and how we grew this community from a small community to the biggest applied AI community. But I don't think we have time for this now. And so I'm going to refer you to an article that I wrote last year. It was titled How to Build an AI Community. So in this article, I'm talking a bit about the journey, how I built Beirut AI, and some of the lessons I learned during this phase. So when I share the presentation with you later, you can just click and go read the article. So what are the lessons or the principles that I've learned from this phase? The first one is a bit interesting. So this is a slogan that's well known. So think globally, act locally. In other words, don't be afraid to dream big. Don't be afraid to have big ideas, to have ambitious ideas, and to really, try to take them forward. So some ideas might sound too crazy at first, but I think when you start, when you take the first step and you start moving towards it, it will become much easier. And this is the same thing we had when we first started Beirut AI. The idea of, building a big community and having kind of my personal idea was to put Lebanon on the global map of AI. And I mean, it was a bit ridiculous, but I also really had this big dream and wanted to push it. So after 3 years and after we've built everything, we are actually one of the most active city AI hubs in the world, and a lot of people have asked us for help, or how do you do this, or give us insights, or how are you able to accomplish this, or whatever it is. So in a way, we have really exposed our our country, or kind of achieved the mission in a way. And we're still long from achieving the big mission, but I think we're on the way. So anyway, next point is surround yourself with the right people. So obviously, like I said before, I will not. If you're building a big, if you have a big dreams and you have a big mission, you're never going to be able to pull it off alone. You need to have a team of people who think like you and who are motivated as you, who can help you push forward and accomplish your mission. And so it's very important to find those right people. Uh, you're never going to find them from the first try. You have to give people chances. You have to make mistakes. You have to try different ones until you really find the right people, the people who think like you and who can really help you push forward your mission. um, Third point, take action. So like I said, you can have the best dream, you can have the best mission, you can think about a lot of things, but unless you make this a reality, it will still be, thoughts on paper. And so it's very important to not to be paralyzed by the big mission or the big things that you need to accomplish, but rather to be able to sit down and to actually do the work. So take action means not don't over plan, don't overthink, don't just have the ideas and discuss them, but actually take a step forward and try to implement them. I know that previously we said that you should have a clear plan, but sometimes over planning will not help you. So action always beats planning. So take a step, take an action, and then evaluate and try again. And the last point is be a yes person. So this will sound counterproductive, and I know that a lot of people will disagree with me, but I found that when you're starting something new and you're very excited, you need to grow this and you need to push it as much as you can. And being a yes person and basically saying yes to different opportunities will allow you to, first of all, push it further, will allow you to talk about your mission or talk about your community or your startup, and it will open doors for collaborations, and it will open different opportunities as well. So don't be afraid to say yes to a lot of opportunities, because you never know what this might lead you to. So this brings us to the last chapter in our story. So throughout the Beirut AI journey, we have done a lot of events, a lot of workshops. We have met so many people from different backgrounds. And really what started as a community to promote artificial intelligence in Lebanon suddenly felt like a mission that required more time and efforts and dedication. So if we wanted the AI ecosystem to be stronger, we realized that education was the key. And a lot of people that you've met, like I said, were very eager to learn. Either they're technical people and they're interested in applying AI in their projects, or they were students interested in finding jobs in the field, or they were companies looking to leverage AI to their in their projects and businesses. So we realized that education is very important, and there was a huge gap between the what people knew about AI and the advancements in AI. And so we realized that there's a huge need to educate people and businesses on this topic, and there was no one that was doing that. So obviously there's a need, and we need to fill this need. And at the time, everyone in the Beirut AI team was volunteering his or her free time. So while in parallel working or studying. For example, I was also freelancing and consulting on AI projects. And so in order to make this dream a reality, we needed to make it sustainable and for all of us to spend full time on it and to really make it our full-time job. And so we decided to set up an artificial intelligence company with the mission of developing the AI sector, not just in Lebanon, but in the neighboring MENA region as well. And thus, ZAKA was born. So ZAKA, which means intelligence in Arabic, provides many services, from educational services such as AI bootcamps, trainings, and workshops, to consultancy and development projects. And we're also very committed to community building. We believe that communities are the stepping stones towards having a vibrant AI ecosystem. And so we really care about building communities and trying to connect all of this ecosystem to push forward. So if you're interested in knowing more about ZAKA and what we do at ZAKA, I would encourage you to follow us on social media and to stay updated with our events. One small thing to mention. So we have a new NLP workshop series that we're launching starting from next week, next Saturday. So if you're interested in getting started with natural language processing, this is a series of 4 technical workshops that we will start on Saturday, May 9, and for the next 3 Saturdays as well. We will cover the basics of NLP, introduction to word embeddings, deep learning in NLP, and in the last session, we will talk about the latest advancement, such as transformer networks and models like BERT. And we're offering a 20% discount for the IEEE community. So you can use this promo code IEEERA20 to take advantage of this promo code. So to wrap this up, I've put kind of my final thoughts on the whole story and on the whole journey. So first of all, find your own story. Every person is different and every story has to be different. So don't try to look at a successful person and try to follow their story, but instead you should find your own story and make it happen. So that's very important. Second point is, I know that the titles don't really mean a lot, but I think they hold a lot of information in them. So whatever you're building and however big it is, it's basically can never be built overnight, right? So the biggest effort that you find or the biggest project is basically made up of small effort, consistent effort that is done over time. And so never underestimate, small steps. When you do them for a long period of time, they can give you big results. So this is what I like to do always. And it really helps you out when you have routines. So for example, let's say you want to learn a new topic. And if you spend 20 minutes every day reading on this topic, one time of 20 minutes is basically nothing. But if you do it for 7 days a week for a whole year, imagine how much time you'd have spent on this topic, right? And so it's the same thing. If you do one small step every day towards your mission, that's all it needs. Like one step every day, keep pushing it. And in a year or in 2 years, you'd have taken a huge step. And this is how success is really made, just by pushing step by step. I noticed that also it's very important to have support from loved ones, especially in times of down or in times of failures. So there's a lot of ups and downs. And when you're up, it's good, it's nice, it feels good. But when you're down, it's really bad. And I found that having family or friends or a significant other next to you who can support you is very important. So always try to find, either a member of the family or some friend who can really support you in these times, because it really matters. This is what also happened with me. Like I definitely think that if I didn't have my family next to me and my wife, who is now my wife, but was my girlfriend back then, I wouldn't really have been able to go through all the challenges I went through and really achieve what I had achieved. The next point is trust people. So again, you're building something, you cannot do it alone. So you have to trust people. You have to get someone on board with you and really trust them to do the job. And it can feel a bit um, difficult to trust them, because if you have an idea and you kind of feel protective that this is your thing, your idea, you don't want someone to I don't know, to mess it up or not do it exactly well. So you should definitely be able to trust people and test them out. And then this is the only way to build a strong team. And obviously make mistakes. This is the only way that you will learn. I mean, you will always have to make mistakes. You cannot avoid making mistakes. However, don't look at them as mistakes, but rather look at them as lessons learned. So try to make as many mistakes as you can. And every time try to learn from the mistakes, try to come up with a principle or with a rule, for example, so as to not fall in the same mistake later on. The, the next point is, I think, is very underrated. So everyone knows that you have to work hard to achieve something, but I think people sometimes underestimate how hard you should work. And I just want to remind you that it's a lot of hard work, and this is why following your passion and doing it on your own and doing, what you think is right is very important in this case. Because if you're really passionate about something and you enjoy doing it, then it's not a job or it's not working hard. It's just basically playing or enjoying your time. And that's why it's always nice to start with passion, start with something that you enjoy doing, and then it helps you do all the other things. And the last point is have fun. So you're doing something that you want to do. You're doing something that you should enjoy doing. So if you're not having fun, I think you're doing it wrong. And when I say fun, it's not like just sit down and do nothing and this kind of fun. It's actually, you should really enjoy doing it. The hard work should not be hard work, but rather something that you can spend hours doing without really noticing. So I personally have been enjoying and having a lot of fun in the last 3 years. Although I've worked a lot, I really worked hard. I spend all my weekends working, for example. So it's a different type of fun, but it's still really fun to be able to see something grow, for example, like a community or a company or whatever product or project you're working on. So this brings us to the end of my talk. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and found it inspiring, maybe. I'm gonna go to gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna go to Facebook to see if we have some questions on the chat so I can answer some of the questions. Okay. My concern about always be a yes person, we have time stealers. What best approach to filter this type of request? Definitely. So exactly, I agree with you. I think that always be a yes person, but that doesn't mean that you're not learning from the mistakes. So when you say yes to a certain opportunity, and then you realize that, okay, this was a time waster, and obviously it didn't give you any good. And then obviously next time you have a similar opportunity, you can say no. But I mean, don't immediately say no before actually considering it or giving it a chance. Thank you. So I'm going to share with you the link to the presentation, which has the link for the registration for the NLP, and then it also has the social media links for ZAKA and my account if you guys want to ask me a question or follow up with me later. So I added the link in the comments. I'll wait a bit to see if there's any more questions, or we can wrap this up. Thank you all for joining. Okay, I think we have no more questions. So Again, I added the presentation link in the comment section, and you can find everything there. And if you need anything else, you can always reach out. Thank you everyone for joining. I really hope, I mean, this was a bit the first time for me that I share my story. So I'm not really used to talking about myself, but I hope I did a good job and I didn't bore you out. I hope it was inspiring and the lessons that I shared will be useful for you on your own journey. Okay, someone just asked a question. What was your favorite part about the entire journey? I think I don't have a specific favorite part, just the idea that I'm always, you know, it's unexpected what's gonna happen next. And when I first started, I was just trying to work on AI project, following a passion that I had. And then this has led me to realize that, okay, there's nothing happening here. So how about we make it happen? And so we started pushing with the AI community. And now we want to do the same with ZAKA as well. And so the favorite part is always having to, it's always fun, right? It's never boring. I'm always learning new things. I'm always pushing myself. I'm always doing something that I don't really feel comfortable doing, but after I do it, it feels so much good, and I'm actually learning. So it's just maybe the learning part and trying to feel that I'm always progressing instead of like, stagnating. So this would be my favorite part about the entire journey. Thank you, everyone. I'm really happy that you found this valuable experience. Okay. So yeah, I think we can wrap this up. If you have more questions, you can always email them to me and I'm happy to answer. So again, thank you IEEE Region 8 Entrepreneurship Initiative, and thank you everyone for joining our talk. Hope to see you soon. Bye-bye.